Hey all, recently a friend of mine, Dan, asked about lumens and candela. And some of you probably already know this. Some of you might be familiar with the terms. I'm not gonna delve deep into the science of it because there's a lot of math. What I will do is provide some links in the description if you wanna do further reading and you're really wanting to math nerd. But let me just kind of explain the general concept of lumens and candela and why you care and why one may be more important to you than the other, vice versa. One, lumens is a measure of the total output of the light that is generated by an emitter. So if you've seen any of my other videos, kind of in the B-roll, you see me using a styrofoam cooler with a light meter inside it to try and capture all the light. It's reflective, and really, if I were being more scientific, I would paint the inside of it so that less light escaped, so it was literally all in there, which might be influencing some of my higher end numbers and why they're a little lower than the manufacturer expresses in their guidelines or in their stats for their lights. So like I said, don't hold my $40 setup as the gold standard. It's not. But like I said, it's an attempt to just capture all of the light in a nice little compact space that can measure it. So it's if the light's coming out of the middle of the beam, the sides of the beam, wherever, all the lumens, that's the whole point, is all of the light that the emitter emits. Depending on how that light is focused, that may be more or less useful to you depending on your application, right? Candela, however, is a measure of peak intensity at the center of the beam. So it doesn't care about the spill. It does not care about the total amount of light. It only cares about the focused hot spot, like the hottest hot spot. To give you some idea, this workhorse, which I just did a review on not too long ago, and said good things about, by the way, especially for its price point, it didn't measure up in terms of raw lumens. It didn't quite make the claims. But like I said, take my testing apparatus into consideration and don't flip out. But I don't see a lot of smaller lights hitting their peak numbers, especially when we start claiming things like 2,000, 3,000 lumens. I'm not seeing that. Now, like I said, does it really exact? I don't know. This was claiming like 1,800 lumens, and I was seeing somewhere close to 1,400 lumens. So at the end of the day, not a horrible thing. But interestingly, this was also claiming like 34,000 and some change candela. And when I measured candela, which what I do is I have my light emitter 1 meter from the light sensor to the emitter point, and I put the hottest spot I can find on that light sensor and then go from there. My numbers in terms of peak candela were higher than what the manufacturer claimed, 36,000 by the way. So if you remember the video, like you could get a lot of distance with this light. Like I was seeing stuff 180, 200 meters away from me in the, across the commons area in my neighborhood. So this light, despite, like I said, not making one set of numbers, certainly made the other set of numbers in terms of, like I said, the peak hottest of the hot spot at whatever distance. And if you measure it at 1 meter, I think it's a raw number. Any other has to be derived. Like I said, I'll give you the articles and you can read the math if you want a math nerd. I know there's like maybe 3 math nerds who are watching this and everybody else is like, oh, I don't know. And I'm really, trust me, I am Mongo when it comes to that. So I don't want to go too far down that hole. I use as much math as I need to figure out what I need, and I don't really go any further. Like once I've figured out the math that's important to me, that's cool, and I move on. And that goes with like long distance shooting, reloading, light outputs, things like that. So, but peak intensity is candela. Total output of light is lumens. But here's the thing, you can have something that puts out a ton of lumens that may not be as useful to you because perhaps you want more of a concentrated hot spot because you want some distance usage. Conversely, you can get a light that is literally all hot spot with no spill. They're LEP, or I think laser excited phosphor. If you've seen one of those, a small amount of lumens, i.e. 500 to 800 lumens, can legitimately travel like a mile because the peak candela is so high. But if you were to use it inside a structure, inside your house, you're gonna have like a little, almost, I don't wanna say a laser, but such a spotlight with no usable spill unless it's reflection from that hot spot that it's not really broadly useful, which is why you haven't seen any major manufacturers set up any LEP lights for more work-related tasks, tactical-related tasks, because I need to see a lot of things, not just one thing. I think a LEP would be really good for signaling because of the concentration of light, but I don't know really how useful it would be to probably 99+% of you guys watching this. And if you ever want to do your own measurement, I do have a video in the queue somewhere of how to set up your own low-dollar redneck engineering lumens and Candela setup. Trust me when I tell you that I think mine is reasonably accurate without spending a lot more money on it. And you know, one of these days when you guys are, millions of viewers instead of thousands of viewers, maybe I will spring for one of those ANSI rated setups just because I'm curious and I like measuring things. But for the most part, which is more important, lumens or Candela? Yes, in the proper, I guess, balance, if you will. And speaking of that, even if you've got a light that doesn't quite measure up in terms of raw output, like total output lumens, but it gives you acceptable Candela, or at least, enough punch to handle what you need, then it's not really a bad light. Like I said, back to the Workos TD05, well, this thing's got some distance on it, and for its size and weight, it's pretty awesome. If you look at, I think it was the Nitecore EDC33 that I did, once again, it didn't quite measure up, but man, it's such a small package that it came darn close, and it puts out a lot of light. So, once again, I'm not gonna bang on it. Also understand that I think that there are other factors that come into play, not just my freaking very redneck setup, but is the battery fully charged? What is the ambient temperature? Because all these batteries are lithium batteries, so their amount of ability to generate energy is best at a certain temperature range. And if you depart from that temperature range, you're not going to get as much output. To give you another idea or another example, the Nitecore P23i, which I previously tested, and it made darn close to 3,000 lumens at its peak, I pulled it out of my car, which was sitting in my car, and it was probably about 35, 38 degrees in the car. Pulled it out, tested it, and I was only getting about 2,200 lumens instead of close to 3,000. I believe that was temperature related and the fact that the battery wasn't fully charged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the charger, let it come up to temp. I'll come back and test it again. So understand that all these tests, man, they have a lot of variables going into them. My most, I think, critical part of all this testing is, consistency and what am I actually seeing when I do the beam patterns. So don't get wound up about any one metric when it comes to lights. Really what I care about is the sum of all of them. Does it give me enough output for what I need? Does it give me enough hot spot to see at a decent distance? Is it in a form factor that I can readily carry with me? Is it reasonably waterproof, durable? Is the user interface, the switching, usable to me? Because some of these lights can have really goofy switching, and sometimes you hear me kind of complain about the switching in some regards. If I have a light that doesn't have the best output, but it has the best user interface and everything else, and that's probably the one I'm going to go for 10 out of 10. Like I said, it's a combination of factors, and I attempt to convey that whenever I'm doing a light review. I know I'm not always successful. It just kind of depends, but I try and give you, the viewer, the best overview of everything when it comes to front to back these lights, because I know, some of these things I get sent, some of them I actually spend money on, but for you guys, most of you are spending your hard-earned money on them unless you're suckering work into paying for them, which if you are, hey, good for you, but you still want the best that you can for the amount of money you're spending. But like I said, for most of you, this is your coin, whether it's $30, $120, $200, however much, and that's money you could be spending on anything else. So I want to make for you the best recommendation that I can based on all the factors so you can make an intelligent decision based on your uses. I mean, maybe you are on the job. Maybe you're a law enforcement or you're military. Maybe you're just a prepared citizen who's interested in self-defense. Maybe you're somebody who's worried about a power outage. Or somebody who's looking for their keys. There's a million different things. I want you to be able to take care of you and your family the best way that you possibly can, given your time and resources. So it's a lot of words to say. Lumens, Candela, understand what they both give you. They're both important, but in different ways. And I'll end this here. I'm not going to go deep into the weeds any worse than I already have. I appreciate you guys watching my videos as always. If you ever have any comments or suggestions, hit me in the comments. If there's any questions, I usually attempt to address them to the best of my ability and or send you other resources as needed. If you enjoy my videos, I'd really appreciate you doing the like, subscribe, hit the notification bell as always. And as every other YouTuber says, you know, but it's gives me a little bit of additional advertising revenue for me to pour into things like this when I can for you guys. I'll end this here. Take care. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Get 'em, Jay.